Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are not just analyzing a market. We are basically ripping up the operational rule book for one of the fastest growing industries in the world.
We are. We're talking about aesthetic medicine.
And if you're a practitioner or maybe even an ambitious manager of a clinic, you've probably seen this massive, frustrating paradox.
Oh, for sure. You can have two clinics, right? Literally across the street from each other.
Okay.
They're identical in skill level. They're using the same products, charging, similar prices.
Everything looks the same on paper.
Exactly. Yet one clinic seems to be just perpetually stuck in what you'd call acquisition mode.
Constantly spending on marketing, trying to drag in one-time visitors.
It's a grind. But the other one, it operates like a magnet. It has this self-sustaining base of devoted, habitual patients.
The kind who come back automatically. They don't even think about it.
And they actively promote the practice. It's a completely different business model.
That is the core difference, isn't it? It's the difference between a transaction and a true transformation.
Precisely.
And that's the subject of our deep dive today. We are moving way past the glossy brochures and into the hard science of behavioral architecture and retention engineering.
And for this, we're drawing directly from some incredibly specific, really potent source material.
Yeah, we are. We're using excerpts from a highly influential masterclass that's offered by Dr. Ari Masudi.
And Dr. Masudi's background is, I think, key to understanding why this system he talks about actually works.
I agree. He's not just some marketing guru.
No, he's a molecular biologist by training, a former researcher in regenerative medicine.
So he sees the world through a scientific lens.
Exactly. He views the business of aesthetics through, a lens of scientific rigor. He's focused on reproducible systems, on mechanisms, not just on luck or having a great personality.
And he pivoted, right. He's now a science tech business consultant.
But he keeps that scientist's obsession with what causes a predictable outcome. And his work, it really targets those ambitious practitioners who are ready to scale their success systematically.
So his central thesis, the foundation for everything we're about to discuss today, it's crystal clear. And honestly, it's a little unsettling for the traditionalists out there.
It really is. He argues that success in this market, which is just massive.
What were the numbers again?
It hit $82.46 billion in 2023, and it's growing at over 8% a year.
Wow.
And success in that market is not found in finding a better Botox or, some new gadget.
Those are just tools.
They're just tools. The real success is rooted in sophisticated design, in sensory marketing, in engineering, a patient experience so seamless and psychologically engaging.
That the clinical skill, while you have to have it,
Oh, it's essential.
it just becomes the baseline. It's not the thing that makes you different.
And here's the really critical mindset shift you have to make, the one he hammers home.
Okay.
Your competition is no longer just the clinic down the street. That's way too narrow a view.
So who is it?
Your real competition is every single expertly designed dopamine-triggering experience your patient encounters every single day.
Okay, think about that for a second. When your patient leaves your practice, they're immediately stepping into environments that are engineered for maximum engagement.
The perfectly curated Instagram feed,
The effortless flow of a Netflix binge.
or even that highly intentional atmosphere of the high-end coffee shop, with its custom lighting and its curated scent.
All of these systems are fighting for your patient's attention and their loyalty.
And they're using high-level behavioral design principles to win.
Absolutely. The foundational insight, which, Masudi openly borrows from organizations that specialize in this, like Las Vegas casinos.
The experts in sustained engagement.
Exactly. And the insight is this. People return not because of the product, not the jackpot, not the perfect filler, but because of how you make them feel while they're with you.
Your engineering engagement. You're using environment flow psychology, making the experience itself the primary product.
So our mission today is to break down these exact mechanisms. And we want to be clear, we are focusing on the ethical application of these principles,
Which fundamentally means removing psychological friction
creating absolute clarity.
and ultimately designing a patient journey where breaking engagement, where deciding to go somewhere else.
It feels significantly harder, more of a hassle than simply staying and advancing their relationship with your practice.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's unpack that crucial point, starting with what we're calling the retention paradox. We've set the scene. Two equally skilled clinics, same price, same services, but radically different long-term success. So why does technical skill, the one thing we're all told defines quality, why does that fail to guarantee retention?
Because technical skill is what Dr. Masudi calls the table stakes.
Table stakes.
In the modern aesthetic market, clinical excellence is just the minimum entry requirement. That's it.
It gets you in the door.
It gets the patient's initial attention right. It validates the reputation that brought them to you.
Yeah.
The initial attraction, that first booking, that's all handled by your marketing and your clinical reputation.
But the second they are inside the walls of your practice,
That transaction ends. A new phase begins. Retention, loyalty, that habitual return you want, and referrals. That is handled entirely by experience design.
it's the behavioral systems you've constructed.
100%.
I feel like I have to push back on that just a little. I mean, systemic change, re-engineering a clinic's entire flow, that sounds expensive.
It can be.
It often requires shutting down operations, at least for a bit. Buying a new, faster laser or mastering some new technique that feels like a much faster, more tangible competitive advantage.
It feels that way.
So what's the immediate ROI of investing in a new system flow compared to just, buying a newer, faster piece of equipment?
That is the perfect question. It really is, because it reveals the typical practitioner's blind spot.
Okay.
Improving your skill is a linear improvement. Better skill equals maybe slightly better results.
Right. An incremental gain.
An incremental gain.
Yeah.
But improving your system, that's a geometric improvement.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we're talking about, for instance, converting 61% of consultations to 87%. That's one of the examples we'll get to.
Wow. Okay.
That jump in conversion, sustained over time, it completely dwarfs the profit you might gain from a marginally faster procedure time on a new laser.
Yeah.
The real competitive advantage is entirely in the system that's wrapped around the technical excellence.
So if the technical procedure is the product, then the experience design is the operational leverage.
That's a great way to put it. And the data backs this up. That massive market growth, the 82 billion we mentioned, it doesn't get distributed evenly.
Of course not.
It flows disproportionately to the practices that treat their operations like a scientific system, rather than just a series of disconnected transactional appointments.
And if your system is messy, if it forces the patient to pause or calculate or question.
They're introducing friction, and you will hemorrhage patients. It doesn't matter how flawlessly you can handle a needle.
Okay, let's define that core concept then.
Yeah.
Frictionless progression. We need to be really clear here. This is not about manipulation. When people hear behavioral engineering, they get, suspicious.
And they should. Manipulation implies getting someone to do something that's against their will or their self-interest. Frictionless progression is about architecture.
Architect.
It's the ethical act of removing every single point of resistance that currently exists between the patient and their desired outcome.
Which is to feel beautiful and confident and cared for.
Exactly. We are just eliminating the psychological speed bumps that cause doubt or confusion or anxiety.
So step one is to identify where the patient has to pause, where they have to consciously make a decision, or where they feel any kind of logistical anxiety, and just flatten that out.
You flatten it out completely.
Yeah.
We are redesigning the entire path, physical, sensory, and behavioral, to align perfectly with the patient's underlying, powerful, emotional desire for transformation.
So if the patient wants to achieve goal X,
The system should gently carry them toward X without ever forcing them to swim against the current of inconvenience or self-doubt.
that makes the system act like a gentle river current, as you said. The data insight here, the ultimate goal, it's profound.
Did it?
You're designing an experience so aligned with the patient's comfort and their desires that the act of leaving or stopping the engagement, it feels psychologically harder than simply staying and continuing the journey.
Think about what it takes for a habitual patient to break that habit. They have to actively choose a new path, right? They have to start a new relationship, overcome the inertia of their existing comfort.
It's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work. So by making your system comfortable and inevitable and automatic, you ensure that the psychological cost of switching providers becomes prohibitively high. That is sustainable desire architecture.
The first most tangible place this architecture really shows up is in the physical space. This is where Dr. Masudi highlights the most common, accidental design flaws.
Yeah, and most practices, he argues, look and feel like generic medical offices. And these are spaces that actively, if accidentally, remind patients to leave.
How so?
Well, they replicate that familiar, cold, transactional blueprint of a doctor's or a dentist's office.
And why is that bad?
Because, for example, open floor plans give you clear sight lines to the exit. It lets the patient plan their departure from the moment they sit down.
You're already thinking about getting out.
You are. And they often have prominent clocks, which constantly remind the patient of time spent, which our brains often register as time lost or money being burned.
Right. And what about those high, intimidating reception desks?
They're designed for processing people, not for patient comfort or emotional immersion. They just scream, "This is a transaction."
So the first key design principle is to compose completely ditch that medical assembly line feel.
Yes, and create intimate treatment zones instead. You want a sanctuary, not a factory floor.
So how does a practitioner with, say, a 2,000 or 3,000 square foot space achieve that sense of sanctuary without just putting up drywall everywhere?
It's about leveraging architectural cues to manage perception. You have to move away from the idea of one large space and intentionally segment the clinic into smaller, private, protected zones.
Okay.
And the architectural elements that best create this feeling of sanctuary are actually low ceilings and alcoves.
Interesting. What?
Psychologically, lower ceilings just feel more sheltering, more intimate. And alcoves, these small, deliberately recessed waiting spots or consultation corners, they provide a sense of isolation and safety. They reduce the patient's cognitive load by shrinking their sensory environment.
Let's use that Miami clinic example to show just how effective this segmentation can be.
Okay, so this clinic, they took their 3,000 square foot space, which was previously laid out in these long straight lines.
Like a bowling alley?
Pretty much. And they redesigned it into 5 distinct aesthetic pods.
So not just rooms, but pods.
Exactly. Intimate zones linked by winding circulation paths.
Yeah.
And the transformation wasn't just aesthetic, it was financial.
This is the key part.
By making the space feel more personalized, more relaxing, less transactional, their average ticket size increased by a staggering 34% in just 6 months.
34%, just from a redesign.
The patients were committing to larger, more holistic treatment plans because they were physically and emotionally more comfortable staying put.
That leads us perfectly to the second principle, winding circulation paths. This feels like you're borrowing design secrets from, the masters of flow casinos, high-end museums.
It's the same logic.
So why are straight corridors so psychologically destructive to the aesthetic goal?
Because straight lines facilitate efficient travel, and efficient travel is the enemy of lingering.
Right. You want them to meander, not sprint.
Exactly. Straight corridor offers clarity. It allows the patient to see the end destination, the exit, or the next administrative stop, and that clarity breaks their immersion.
Whereas winding paths?
Winding paths achieved with curved walls or even just gentle 45-degree angles, they naturally slow movement. They maintain flow because the path ahead is always just slightly obscured.
And there's a specific reason to avoid sharp 90-degree turns, right?
Yes, because sharp corners force conscious decision-making. If you get to a T-junction, your rational brain kicks in. Do I go left? Where does right lead? What's the shortest path out of here?
And that moment of cognitive effort shatters that relaxed emotional state you've worked so hard to create.
Completely. But gentle curves, they allow the patient to move instinctively. They're guided by strategic focal point, like a beautifully lit display or a piece of art, that keep their attention forward and maintain that feeling of continuous progression, not navigation.
Okay, let's move to principle 3. Actively removing timing. This is the ultimate technique for suspending the patient's consciousness time.
It starts with the obvious. Eliminate every visible clog in treatment and waiting areas.
Every single one.
But that's just the start. You have to manage natural light obsessively.
What do you mean by that?
Any window that lets the patient see external visual cues, cars driving by, the parking lot, the changing light of the afternoon, that's a time anchor.
It reminds them of the outside world, their commitments.
The fact that time is passing. So if windows are necessary, they have to be frosted or positioned high up or kept entirely behind the patient's sight line during treatment.
And you replace it with
Consistent, warm, artificial lighting that doesn't shift. It makes the time of day completely irrelevant inside your aesthetic bubble.
And the research supporting the power of this bubble is pretty remarkable.
It is. Studies show that patients in windowless treatment rooms, environments where the external world is completely excluded, they reported that sessions felt 30% shorter than identical time sessions in naturally lit spaces.
30% shorter. That's a huge psychological win.
It's massive. You gain a 30% increase in perceived comfort and speed just through environmental design. That reduces anxiety about scheduling, about cost, about everything. The clinic has to feel separated from daily life.
So the fourth principle is about the entrance and the exit. You want to make entry effortless, but the exit forgettable.
Inertia is a real thing. To get over that initial mental hurdle of just showing up to an appointment, entry has to be frictionless.
So validated parking, a warm greeting.
Valet service, if it fits the brand, you're removing every logistical headache.
And conversely, the exit.
It has to be functional but completely unmarked. No prominent glowing XA signs visible from the treatment rooms. You don't want the patient calculating their escape route.
But the exit path isn't just about signage, is it? It's a strategic retail placement opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. The exit path has to be deliberately routed through your retail area.
Why then specifically?
Because the patient is leaving immediately after having a positive, rewarding treatment. Their brain is flooded with positive neurochemicals. This is their peak moment of satisfaction.
And you guide them past skincare dispensaries.
Past post-procedure products. You ensure their final conscious thought is an association between that amazing feeling and a product they can take home. It reinforces the purchase as a continuation of their success.
Let's put all these architectural pieces together with that Los Angeles clinic anecdote.
Right. This clinic did it perfectly. They got rid of all the wall clocks, they adjusted the window orientation, and they replaced their clinical corridors with this winding, visually rich, aesthetic gallery that connected the treatment spaces.
And the results?
The results validated the entire theory. Patients consistently underestimated how long their session took by 20 to 30 minutes, and their reported overall satisfaction scores jumped by 41%.
A 41% jump in satisfaction just from architecture.
It proves that feeling safe and immersed and comfortable is often a more powerful driver of satisfaction than the technical procedure itself.
That is a massive insight. Finally, in this section, a small detail that speaks volumes, the strategic placement of amenities.
This is a classic friction point. If a patient, maybe they're wearing a light treatment gown, has to leave the safe private treatment area and navigate the main reception just to get water or use the restroom.
You've broken their immersion. You've shattered the bubble.
Completely. So amenities must be placed within the treatment area circulation. Make sure the patient can get everything they need: water, comfort, quiet, without ever stepping back into the transactional public world of the main lobby. It preserves the bubble. This brings us to the core psychological strategy here, which is creating a state of controlled disorientation.
That sounds a little ominous.
It's not. The idea is the patient should always know the very next step in their journey, but they should never feel like they can easily leave the ecosystem of the practice.
So you're enforcing frictionless progression by ruthlessly eliminating what you call decision bottlenecks.
Exactly. And this is where most practices lose the patient, either between appointments or even just between rooms.
So what exactly is a decision bottleneck in this context?
A bottleneck is any moment where the patient is forced to pause, to analyze, or to choose between multiple options, especially when one of those options involves stopping the process.
The classic example being?
The provider saying, "Go home, think about the treatment plan, and call us when you're ready."
That creates massive inertia.
It's a momentum killer. The patient goes home, they price shop, they start to doubt if they really need it, or they just get busy and forget. Dr. Masudi's system is designed to eliminate that gap by making the next step automatic and immediate.
So solution number one is leveraging repetitive visual patterns. This is to create continuity and, I guess, a subtle psychological blurring.
Precisely. Think about the flooring, the wallpaper, the uniform ambient light fixtures.
They need to be consistent.
They have to be consistent. They're not meant to be noticed consciously. They're meant to be registered subconsciously.
So they create this unifying, slightly hypnotic environment.
Yes, and that prevents the brain from establishing distinct reference points that would help in rational exit planning. The brain just registers, this is still part of the experience. I am still on my path.
And this repetitive pattern ties directly into solution two, limiting long-distance visibility.
You have to ensure the pathways are short and winding. You want partial walls, decorative screens, or focused artworks strategically blocking any distant views.
Why? What's the psychology there?
Because if a patient can see 50 feet ahead, they can calculate the entire route to the exit or to their next obligation.
So you limit that visibility.
And it forces their movement to be step-by-step, immediate, and guided. It prevents that rational planning of departure.
Okay, solution three, strategic focal point, using visual magnets to draw attention forward.
These magnets have to be placed at crucial decision moments, reception, post-treatment checkout, and they need to be more engaging than the exit sign.
So we're talking about
Illuminated, high-quality, before and after displays of the next desirable treatment, or video screens running animated graphics showing the potential progression of their results.
So the patient's attention is immediately drawn to what they could achieve, not the logistics of leaving.
Exactly. And solution 4 is all about seamless transitions, particularly with staff interaction. The shift from consultation to treatment planning to scheduling, it has to feel like scenes in a movie, not separate administrative hurdles.
Staff is your most powerful friction reducer.
By far. If possible, the patient should be handled by the same staff member across as many touch points as you can manage, just to maintain conversational continuity.
You're eliminating that clunky handoff that, now go wait over there for the scheduler.
That handoff creates a mental reset for the patient. It forces them to re-explain themselves or shift mental gears.
And this is where that highly specific role, the aesthetic coordinator, becomes so valuable.
It's the ultimate expression of a seamless transition. This clinic, he mentions, they implemented one person dedicated to guiding the patient through every single step of that first visit.
Every step.
Intake, consultation, treatment planning, product selection, and crucially, booking the follow-up. This coordinator never leaves the patient's side.
That seems like an enormous staffing expense. How could they possibly justify that overhead?
By massive conversion success. Before they implemented the aesthetic coordinator, the clinic's consultation to treatment conversion rate was, I think, 61%.
Okay, pretty good.
After implementation, that conversion rate jumped to a remarkable 87%.
Wow.
That 26-point increase in immediate commitment easily absorbs the cost of one dedicated high-value staff member. The coordinator eliminates every single opportunity for the patient to pause and say no.
And failure to do this, failure to guide the patient, it's backed up by hard psychological data on anxiety, isn't it?
Yeah, a 2023 study in the Journal of Aesthetic Surgery confirmed it. Patients experiencing wayfinding anxiety, that confusion or hesitation about where to go or what to do next, they showed 43% lower acceptance rates for comprehensive treatment plans.
So if your flow is confusing, you are actively introducing anxiety that sabotages long-term commitment.
You're killing your own business.
The ultimate solution here seems to be reducing that cognitive load to zero, letting the patient focus entirely on the emotional outcome. That design fix of using subtle lighting trails, it sounds like something from a sci-fi movie.
But it's just an elegant application of behavioral cues. This practice solved their circulation issues by adding subtle, floor-level LED strips that glowed faintly. They instinctively guided patients from one zone to the next.
So the patient didn't need to read a sign or ask for directions.
They just followed the light. It turns conscious, effortful navigation into instinctive, effortless following. It keeps the patient deeply in that flow state where they're receptive and relaxed.
All right, let's move now to the sensory environment. This feels like it might be the biggest blind spot for practices that started out as traditional medical offices.
It often is.
We're talking about fluorescent lighting, that telltale antiseptic smell, and silence that's just punctuated by jarring noises, all things that trigger anxiety and clinical coldness.
And that accidental sensory environment directly contradicts the aesthetic goal. If the patient comes in seeking transformation and confidence, but the environment screams medical procedure,
You've got a massive cognitive dissonance.
you do, and it increases their stress markers. The clinic's sensory world sight, sound, temperature, and scent, it has to be meticulously intentional.
Okay, let's start with tuning the senses through precision lighting. What are the technical specs we should be aiming for beyond just, warm light?
You have to avoid harsh, high-contrast overhead lighting at all costs. Harsh light casts shadows on the face, which can increase self-criticism and anxiety in a patient who is already focused on their appearance.
That makes so much sense.
So what you need is diffused, soft, warm-toned LED system, specifically around 3000 Kelvin or 3000 K, coupled with dimmers.
And what is 3000 K?
It mimics the warmth of candlelight or sunset. It's evolutionarily linked to relaxation and comfort.
And the treatment room should be dynamic, right? With lighting that changes depending on the stage of the visit.
Absolutely. You need at least 3 modes. First, a bright high CRI light for the technical precision of the actual procedure.
Okay.
Second, a softer medium light for comfortable consultations and pre-treatment discussion where you and the patient are facing each other. And third, a soft ambient light for post-treatment relaxation and recovery.
And that warm white light, you're saying it actually makes the procedure more comfortable.
It can. Yeah. It reduces anxiety, which can genuinely make the physical sensation of things like injectables feel more comfortable because the patient is physiologically less tense.
Okay, next, engineering the soundscape deliberately. We need to avoid silence, which seems a little counterintuitive for a calm environment.
Silence is actually a hazard in a clinical setting because it amplifies every unwanted, anxiety-inducing sound.
Like the clicking of instruments.
The rolling of carts, the footsteps in the hallway.
Yeah.
You need a continuous ambient soundscape nature sounds or soft instrumental music, kept consistently at a low level, ideally 50 to 60 decibels.
And the tempo is everything.
The tempo is critical. Research shows we need slow, steady tempos, preferably around 60-80 beats per minute. Think specific Baroque or classical pieces.
Why that range?
It aligns with the resting heart rate and actively helps reduce physiological stress markers.
You also mentioned one clinic made their soundscape dynamic. How did that work?
Yeah, they had sound systems installed in each pod that not only maintained that consistent tempo, but also adapted slightly to the time of day and the anticipated patient need.
So, for example,
In early morning appointments, they used particularly slow, deep music to help ease the transition from the stress of the morning commute into a state of relaxation. It's an intentional, continuous barrier against the noise of the outside world.
let's talk about climate control obsession. It sounds like a minor detail, but you argue it's a massive factor in how long a patient will linger.
And how much they'll commit. It's fundamental behavioral psychology.
Okay.
A patient in a light treatment gown or draped in a sheet is extremely temperature vulnerable. If they're too cold, they will subconsciously accelerate every decision. They'll rush the consultation and they'll want to leave sooner.
A cold patient is focused on escaping the discomfort, not on a long-term plan.
Exactly. Dr. Masudi emphasizes maintaining treatment rooms consistently at 72 to 74 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 22 to 23 degrees Celsius, with individual controls where possible.
A warm patient lingers, a cold patient rushes. The data on this is quite stark.
It validates the theory perfectly. Studies on thermal comfort in clinical settings show that patients in rooms maintained at this optimal warm temperature range rated their overall satisfaction 31% higher than those in standard cooler environments.
That's a powerful low-cost retention tool right there.
It is. A comfortable patient is a committed patient.
Finally, deploying sense strategically. This is where we tap directly into the powerful subconscious memory centers of the brain.
Scent is maybe the most underrated tool because it bypasses rational thought entirely. Studies confirm that scent can increase memory retention by a remarkable 65%.
And we're not talking about overpowering air fresheners here.
No, absolutely not. We're talking about subtle, custom fragrance used for emotional anchoring. The scent must never smell medical or chemical. It should evoke a high-end spa or a luxury hotel.
And you use different scents for different stages of the journey.
You do. It requires strategic placement. Lavender, for example, is known for its anxiolytic properties. It's perfect for the waiting room and pre-procedure areas to lower that initial anxiety.
Then near the exit.
Conversely, you'd use citrus scents. They're linked to increased energy and positive mood. You want the patient leaving with a boost of positive, optimistic energy that they associate with your brand.
That London clinic example perfectly illustrates the power of a signature scent blend.
They created a custom, complex blend. I think it was cedarwood, vanilla, and a hint of jasmine. Patients didn't necessarily identify the components,
But they felt it.
they did. They consistently reported feeling welcomed home or experiencing an immediate sense of familiar comfort on return visits. That custom fragrance became unconsciously anchored to the positive feelings of relaxation and transformation, creating this subtle, potent psychological bond.
So for you listening, the actionable advice here is to conduct a sensory audit of your own space immediately.
Yes, go stand in every room for 5 full minutes. Close your eyes. What do you hear? What's the temperature? What's the quality of the light? What's the first thing you smell?
And then identify the worst offender.
The buzzing light, the sharp AC, the ringing phone, and commit to fixing that one thing first. Your goal is to transition your environment from an accidental anxiety generator to an intentional flow state provider.
Okay, this section shifts from the passive environment to more active psychological engagement. It starts with a critical 7-second entrance test. You have less than 10 seconds to confirm 3 things for the patient, or you've already lost ground.
It's that fast. The patient must instantly perceive. 1, this is premium. That's signaled by materials, cleanliness, intentional design.
2,
This is specifically about aesthetics and transformation. That means visuals that speak to desired outcomes, not just clinical posters on a wall.
and number 3.
And 3, I am welcome and safe here. That's signaled by the warmth of the greeting and the immediate sense of private comfort.
And if your entrance fails to communicate those 3 things instantly,
Inertia takes over, and the patient starts looking for the exit, mentally if not physically.
so once they're past that entrance hurdle, you have to ruthlessly eliminate distractions and strategically guide their attention specifically toward your high-margin services.
Visual clean lines are essential in the treatment areas themselves. The wall should be soothing, minimalist. You save the visual drama for the moments you need the patient to make a decision.
Right.
So, your highest revenue products or services must occupy the most visible, mandatory zones. For example, if facial filler is your highest margin, stunning, highly lit before and after galleries of filler results must be placed along the mandatory path patients take from consultation to the treatment room.
So it's passive exposure priming the patient for that upsell discussion.
Exactly. And this leads to the use of what he calls strategic jealousy triggers.
Okay, that sounds manipulative.
It sounds it, but it's really just a way to leverage the social proof effectively.
How so?
It's all about timing. You don't place your best before and after galleries at the entrance where patients are still skeptical. You place them where exiting patients walk past them.
Oh.
The exiting patient, they're already feeling good about their own treatment. They see the next level of transformation and their thought switches from, will this work for me, to, I look great, but I could look that great at my next visit.
So you're lining hallways with these transformation journey stories.
Narratives of success. You're letting patients passively absorb the potential outcomes before the provider even opens their mouth to sell.
We also need real-time elements to create urgency and social proof. Behavioral economics tells us people act when they sense scarcity or consensus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are loss averse and they're consensus driven. So digital displays showing, for instance, 3 patients book this high demand treatment today, or last 2 appointments available this week.
That triggers immediate action.
That sense of immediate, tangible scarcity overrides rational delay. The source highlighted one clinic that implemented a small digital sign showing "Next available today at 2 p.m. for spontaneous services."
And it worked.
It increased their same-day booking by 28%. It activates impulse buying for the schedule.
And to make the primary call to action stick in their mind, we can employ the von Restorff effect.
This is critical for memory. The von Restorff effect basically shows that the item that stands out is the item that is remembered and acted upon.
The thing that's different.
Exactly. Therefore, your primary call to action, which should always be scheduling the next treatment or signing up for the membership, it has to be visually distinct.
So make the button on the screen a different color.
Or give it a central placement, or even give the physical literature a different texture. This ensures that when the patient leaves, the most memorable piece of information they carry is that unavoidable essential next step.
Now let's revisit this idea of suspending the consciousness of time and money, leveraging continuous engagement loops to eliminate mental friction.
The patient should never be bored. Boredom equals doubt, and doubt equals a rational analysis of price.
So interactive elements are better than passive ones?
Far superior. The anecdote of the clinic using iPads with a Design Your Dream Results app to engage patients while they wait is perfect.
Because even though the actual wait time didn't change,
their satisfaction with the wait time increased because the patient was actively engaged in the future version of themselves. They were investing their mental energy in the outcome, not in the delay.
And then there's the power of variable reward systems, those unexpected little wins.
Predictability is comfortable, but unpredictability is what drives desire and habit. If you offer a predictable 10% discount on every 10th visit, it just becomes an expectation.
It's not special anymore.
Not at all. But variable rewards, a random small enhancement, an unexpected complimentary mini service, a spontaneous high-value sample that activates the brain's anticipation circuitry far more powerfully.
The patient returns hoping for that unpredictable positive surprise.
And that reinforces the habit much better than scheduled loyalty points.
And the final piece of this puzzle, eliminating financial friction completely by removing the cash-out moment.
The physical act of pulling out a wallet or a card, that is the moment of greatest friction. It's the pain of payment.
It forces the patient back into that rational cost-benefit analysis mode.
The goal is to separate the pain of payment from the consumption of the service.
So storing payment methods securely, billing automatically.
Or using Noble Checkout right there at the treatment chair. Yeah. You reduce this friction significantly. The Dallas clinic that mandated exclusively digital and automated payment saw their exit time. The time from procedure completion to walking out the door dropped from 12 minutes down to just 4.
And the patients perceived the experience as seamless.
Because they were never jarred back into the reality of the transaction.
Okay, the ultimate goal of this entire architecture is a massive mental shift. The patient shouldn't decide to return. They should simply do return.
You're building profitable, automated habit. You're eliminating the need for a new decision every 4 to 6 months.
And you achieve this by attaching aesthetic care to existing, predictable life patterns.
You normalize the care as a necessary ritual, just like going to the gym or getting a haircut. And this is where creating treatment rituals like seasonal reset packages, 4 treatments a year, aligned with the seasons, becomes so powerful.
The data supporting subscription models versus per-treatment bookings is just decisive here.
It's an operational necessity for retention. Practices that use subscription models reported an 89% retention rate.
89% compared to
just 52% for patients booking per treatment. The subscription removes the decision bottleneck. The patient's commitment is automated, and they just show up for their scheduled appointment as part of their annual rhythm.
We also need to build micro-commitment chains, using small psychological sunk costs to deepen the commitment to the next visit.
Yes, this leverages what's called the consistency bias. Immediately scheduling a complimentary touch-up or a post-treatment follow-up right after the first visit is a micro-commitment.
The patient mentally owns that next slot.
They do. And we know that patients who pre-schedule their next appointment during the current checkout process have a 3.2 times higher show rate. They've locked in their future self.
So let's apply Charles Duhigg's habit framework trigger, routine reward, to systematize this loyalty.
This is the blueprint for long-term loyalty. The trigger needs to be sophisticated, not just a generic email, but a calendar reminder combined with an encouraging identity-based message like, it's time for the maintenance that a confident person like you deserves.
Okay, and the routine.
The routine must be frictionless attendance and booking, supported by all the architectural elements we've been talking about.
And the reward.
The reward has to be satisfactory satisfying on multiple levels. Visible results, verbal social recognition from the provider, and tangible progress toward a higher status, tier VIP access, exclusive services, that kind of thing.
That's the structure. Now let's talk about building what you call progressive commitment escalators. This is about avoiding the common mistake of pushing a massive, intimidating treatment plan on a new patient right away.
You have to use the scientifically proven foot-in-the-door technique.
Which is?
You start with small, risk-free micro-commitments. Offer a complimentary skin analysis, followed by one highly rewarding, low-risk introductory treatment.
And the psychology behind that?
Research shows that people who agree to these small requests are 47% more likely to agree to larger requests later because of our ingrained psychological need for internal consistency.
And crucially, you're creating treatment dependencies within the plan itself.
Your service menu shouldn't be a menu of discrete options. It should be a roadmap. You structure the treatment so that completing one logically and aesthetically creates a desire for the next.
So the system flows naturally.
Right. Your Botox has created an amazing lift in the upper face, and now adding just a small amount of filler will complement that and restore complete facial harmony. Each step is validated by the success of the previous one, making the patient feel like they're adhering to a necessary plan, not being upsold.
This all hinges on the ultimate shift, selling identity transformation, not procedures.
You're selling the feeling of being the most confident version of themselves.
That's the neuroscience insight that drives the most lasting loyalty.
It is. Clinical language, 2 milliliters of hyaluronic acid, that activates the analytical brain, which immediately starts questioning the cost.
But aspirational, identity-based language.
You are investing in becoming the confident, beautiful person you know you can be. That activates different neural pathways. It leads to a much stronger emotional and lasting commitment. The patient is buying the identity of the person who invests in feeling beautiful, not just a temporary fix.
And let's talk about that anecdote about the doctor who used personalized language. We need to frame that in terms of identity and belonging.
Absolutely. The doctor who affectionately referred to his patients in his communications as my kitty cats.
It sounds a little quirky.
It does, but he wasn't just being quirky. He was engaging in the powerful psychological mechanism of creating an in-group, a strong sense of belonging and exclusivity.
So by using this highly specific personal affection,
He made his VIP patients feel they were part of a chosen elite circle. Their loyalty skyrocketed because leaving meant not just losing a service provider, but losing their membership in a valued social identity. That sense of belonging is a vastly powerful retention tool.
and finally, leveraging the Zeigarnik effect by framing results as progress, never completion.
We are wired to hate incomplete tasks. The Zeigarnik effect states that we remember and feel urgency toward tasks that remain open.
So you have to eliminate phrases like, your treatment is complete.
Always. Instead, you always say, phase 1 of your aesthetic plan is now complete. Let's immediately discuss phase 2 and the next steps in your sustained progress.
So the patient's mind remains engaged with your practice.
Because the transformation journey is defined as an ongoing optimization, never a finished project. It keeps the loop perpetually open. We arrive now at the strategic necessity for scaling, replacing intuition with systematic behavioral data.
Right. Traditional clinics track revenue and cost.
Modern, high-performing practices track the behavioral science that predicts future revenue.
So what specific granular data are we looking for here? And how does a non-tech focused practice practically collect things like dwell time or a moment of hesitation?
Granularity matters because it reveals patterns your staff can't consciously track. You're tracking dwell time, how long a patient spends in the consultation room after the provider leaves, or how long they stare at a certain display.
And how do you collect that?
It can be collected ethically using motion sensors, simple video analysis in non-treatment areas, or even just dedicated staff observation forms. One practice found that patients who spent 3 or more minutes viewing the before and after gallery, that's specific, focused engagement, booked additional unscheduled services 64% of the time.
So that data tells you exactly where to focus your resources and guide new patients.
It's a roadmap, and you use this granular data for dynamic segmentation, specifically something called RFM scoring.
RFM, what's that?
Recency, frequency, and monetary value. This is how you stop treating all patients equally. The source material noted that typically the top 20% of your patients will generate 68% of the practice's total revenue.
The 80-20 rule, basically.
Exactly. And if you are underserving this core 20%, you are actively limiting your profitability. RFM scoring lets you identify your highest value patients and give them disproportionately high rewards.
Priority booking, exclusive treatments.
Complementary enhancements. You are protecting the center of your profitability aggressively.
And this data then drives engineered, systematic patient reactivation, which we know is a much more efficient growth engine than constant new acquisition.
Acquiring a brand new patient costs 5 to 7 times more than reactivating a dormant one. And that reactivated patient often spends 23% more because trust is already established.
And the key is segmentation.
You segment dormant patients by the reason they left. For instance, if a common filler lasts 9 months, you automate targeted messaging at month 10. It's time for your refresh. We noticed you might be seeing fading.
And the escalation of contact matters depending on the patient's value.
Absolutely. For generic dormant patients, an automated email works. But for those top-spending patients, that 20% you identified with RFM, a personal phone call from the provider themselves can reactivate 68% of them.
Wow.
That level of personal touch can't be scaled to everyone, but it must be applied to the patients who drive 2/3 of your revenue.
Finally, let's talk about eliminating financial friction completely, making sure the patient spends without that pain of conscious awareness.
The goal is to mask the transactional moment. This means storing payment methods securely, billing automatically for subscription services.
And if you have to charge for a plan,
Use comprehensive package pricing. Instead of itemizing every unit of product, offer a $1,800 to 6-month transformation program. It obscures the per-unit costs, makes the purchase feel more abstract, and generates 32% higher upfront revenue because the patient commits to a lump sum associated with a long-term goal.
and the most abstract method of all, creating an internal currency system, selling transformation credit.
This is behavioral genius. Once the patient buys the initial package of transformation credits, they stop calculating the value of the next step in terms of real money.
They focus on the sunk cost.
I've already invested in these credits,
Right.
and the relative value of the next step is in these abstract units. The patient is focused on spending their credits to continue their progress, ethically leveraging the sunk cost fallacy to encourage continuation. Financial friction disappears when the payment is automatic, separated from the moment of consumption, and expressed in an abstract internal currency. So, to summarize Dr. Masudi's central thesis for every practitioner listening, clinical skill is the necessary floor of your operation, but it is not the ceiling.
It's just the start.
The only path to disproportionate success in this competitive market lies in shifting your focus entirely to behavioral systems and experience architecture. Your intuition is unreliable. You have to replace it with meticulous design flow and systematic behavioral data.
Your clinic's experience today is either thoughtfully designed or it's accidentally created. There is no third option. And now you have the exact mechanisms borrowed from molecular biology applied to consumer psychology to audit and fix your accidental architecture. So here is your actionable thought for this week. Walk your entire practice with fresh eyes and identify one physical design flaw, a visible clock, a jarring sound, a straight corridor, and one behavioral flow issue.
Like a moment where you ask an open-ended question that invites hesitation.
Or a point where payment causes friction, find those two things and fix them immediately.
And here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. The best patient experience doesn't end. It simply transitions into the next level of commitment.
It's continuing.
When you engineer the journey so that advancement feels inevitable and highly rewarding, your patients cease to be transactional booking and become a perpetual, predictable source of profitable habit. So the only question is, what is the next non-negotiable step of optimization you can offer right now to frame your patient's current success as a launching, not a final destination?